Alright, so in this video we're going to look at doing Monte Carlo simulations. Basically why you want to do these is just to stress test your future. Basically with this tool we're going through 10,000 simulations to determine if your savings will last through retirement or not. You can test any portfolio as long as you know the average return and average standard deviation. But if you're using these tools, definitely try to test some historical returns over 10 years. We're looking at almost a 30-year timeline example, so having at least 30 years of performance is probably in your best interest. So what the tool starts off with giving your mean and standard deviation is historical data blended with the current portfolio's data, and essentially it's just trying to find the best number, but no one ever really knows. Alright, so to get started, this is the intro screen on the iPad, and all you have to do is say, hey, we're going to test out, we're 62 years old, we're planning on retiring at 63, but you know what, I don't want to work another year, so will the savings from 62 to 92 last? So to get to the Monte Carlo tool, all you have to do is click the bottom left button here on the home screen. This only opens once a day, but I'll show you another way how to get to the tool later on. So if you're using the Invest USA portfolio that gets built for you right away, basically this is an 87% success rate. And then there's also some stress tests that you can do. So we can say, hey, is there going to be a market correction? Let's test out another simulation. Alright, nothing really happened. So market correction is losing 15% in the first year of your retirement. Let's try a market crash. This is losing 25% the first year of your retirement. So we only have a 58%. So you can really see that first year, a crash is really going to hurt your money maybe. Now let's try out a sequence of returns risk. This is losing 10% the first 3 years of your retirement. And this brings you up to, again, 87%. So it's those large crashes that you really have to worry about, and how fixed income really helps protect your portfolio. So what you can also do is, when there's a market crash, you can also do flexible spending. Basically what this does is reduces your spending 10% the year after a market crashes. Testing that out, we brought the success rate up to 64%, but again, these are just simulations. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. So let's take a look at some of the inputs. So first we need to know the time horizon. We're 62 and going to live till 92. We have to make sure our money lasts. If you noticed on the input screen, we hit the $1 million mark. And basically what we're doing is expecting 9% long returns and expected volatility of around 14.58%. So the main tool, basically the algorithm's only tracking the best investments. So with almost 2,000 ETFs to look through, it's only picking the top handful of ETFs. If you don't see your investment in there, it's probably not a good one. So if you own SCHD, you're going to have to put these expected returns down a little bit. This is a terrible dividend ETF. And a good rule of thumb, basically how I designed it, is your expected returns and volatility, they should kind of be above and below each other. There's usually standard deviation close to around twice the amount of returns. Now, what you also need to do is check out your desired spending. Basically, this person is saying, hey, I want $50,000 to spend the first year of retirement, and we're going to adjust that for inflation. Now, the calculator also needs to know what's your government benefits. You know, this person is taking their money out at 62, so they're going to have less government benefits than most people. Another toggle that you really might want to look at, basically it's up to your tax bracket. What's your average tax rate? Let's just say your average tax rate in this example is a little bit lower because they're only pulling out $50,000. Your average tax rate's probably a little lower than 20%. This is something you should check on your own, and again, use your own numbers. Basically the tool is here so you can customize it exactly to your personal situation. Now the inflation adjustment, basically this is how much of a raise you're kind of giving yourself in retirement. You know, the first year we're pulling out $50,000, but if you give yourself a 2.18% raise, we're taking out a little over $51,000 the next year. Basically you always want to make sure you're giving yourself a little raise, or you're going to run out of money by the end of your lifetime. You can't just take a flat number out every year. It's not going to work. The time horizon, this is something you can't change. This is something you input in your profile, so there just can't be any monkey business. And there is one thing you can't change, the assumptions. The long-term US inflation rate is 3.11. The long-term US inflation rate is 3.11%. So why that's relevant is I'm just going to show you this right now with the chart. So basically giving yourself a 2.18% raise, but inflation, like the real life inflation, is going up 3.11%. Basically, you're kind of just slowly going down the mountain when it comes to your inflation adjustment. You might hear people say go, slow go, and no go. This is just let's just take a little bit less every year and not do any of this monkey business. Now you can see the inflation rates. These are what you selected from the previous screens. So you're giving yourself a 2.18% raise. So let's just change these numbers and say, hey, you know what? I'm only going to give myself a 1% raise. So what you're going to want to do is slide this bar down, just pick whatever percent you'd like. And we're going to run the Monte Carlo simulation with, let's take off the market crash this time and just see what we got. So there's a 93% success rate. Basically, the gray bars are the time it fails, and the purple bars, kind of as it goes down, is these really win. Basically, it doesn't happen a lot. As you can see, you're just making it through retirement in the first purple bar, and you're kind of just left with more and more money as the chart goes down. It's good to have a dynamic, flexible spending rule to make sure you just bring that balance to zero. What you want to do is die with zero. So let's go back to the chart and look at the 1% raise. Basically, as you can see here, so with the 1% raise, yes, you're giving yourself a little bit of a raise every year, year by year, but by the end of your spending, you can click these charts and we'll say, hey, your inflation adjusted in today's dollars, your first year's 50,000. Okay, that makes sense. But by the time you pass away, can you live on $26,000 in today's dollars? I just don't think that's possible. Half your spending by the end of your life, that just doesn't add up in my opinion. So again, you really want to know your portfolio, or just use the Invest USA one. It's going to give you the values right off the bat, but I would always suggest just using the retirement calculator. It's going to bring your money down to zero at your death. You don't really need Monte Carlo. In my opinion, it's great to know that if your portfolio is going to make it, but it really doesn't help you at all with a withdrawal strategy. So let's try even worse returns here and look at an inflation adjustment of around, let's say, 2.1% this time. And we're going to check the Monte Carlo analysis and get rid of flexible spending. So this person only has a 67% chance of success. This is probably not a good time to retire. You know, I'd really want to see your success rate over 80%. But in the end, we really don't know if this is going to work or not. This is a simulation, and why it's best to just check your money once a year and use the retirement calculator to help you develop a dynamic withdrawal stream. So if you forgot to use the tool when you first open the app, you're going to be a little bit past this screen. You can just find it in the financial education part of the app. The whole point of this app, now it's an entire ecosystem, is to just make you make better decisions with your money. It is giving you the formulas that you don't want to read in the textbook, already done for you. You just have to put in your personal values to make it customized to your personal situation.